I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is in association with Jess Creighton's B is for Black YouTube channel and YouTube programme. Today we're going to be talking on the topic of Black female players at the top of their game. We are really grateful to all our members for your support and for being here today. The feedback's been really excellent, and this is a follow-up to last month's webinar that we also did with Jess. We set these webinars up in response to the COVID-19 crisis, and we hope that you continue to find them inspiring and informative. We'll be carrying on with the series as we kind of work out what's going on and how much we're opening up and how much we're not opening up. Hopefully we'll be able to all get together in the same room at some stage soon. If you've got any feedback at all, please do email us at events@womeninfootball.co.uk. Which now brings me to welcoming our host for today's session. Jess Creighton, who I'm sure many of you or most of you will know, is an award-winning broadcaster and journalist. She's worked in the industry for more than 10 years for organisations such as BBC Sport, Radio 5 Live, BT Sport and Talk Sport. Currently, you can find her presenting for Sky Sports News, and she's been hosting the Women's Football Show. As a former player, Jess is committed to levelling the playing field and ensuring sport is accessible for all, particularly those from marginalised communities. She's the co-founder of Rainbow Noir, a community group that elevates the voices of LGBTQ people of colour. Her YouTube chat show, B is for Black, provides a unique insight into the lives and experiences of Black and mixed-race women in sport. We are delighted that Jess has come back to do another session with us at Women in Football, and now I'm just going to hand over to Jess.
Thanks, Laura. Lovely intro. I'm delighted also to be back for another edition, another collaboration with Women in Football, an organisation that has led the way for so many years in fighting for marginalised voices within the game. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And what a panel we have. I mean, last time the panel was incredible, but this time, look at the talent on show. I'm going to go through all the panelists for you. I'm not going to list their achievements because honestly, we'd be here all day, but let me tell you who they are. Starting with Freda Ayisi, who plays for London City Lionesses. Hey, Freda. Dan Carter, Reading and England international. Umotong, who plays for Lewes and is a Nigeria international. Renée Hector as well, who plays for Watford, and Rinsola Babajide, who is an England and Liverpool striker. Really, really, really good to have all you with us. How are you all?
Really well. Enjoying the sunshine, but no, doing really well.
Good to see you. And I know, like, you know, the country's opening up a bit, but it's still kind of strange time. So I'm glad to see that you're all here and hopefully you're all doing well as well. Now, the title of this panel, this webinar, was a discussion amongst Black female players at the top of their game. Maybe we've been a bit presumptuous there, because do any of you even consider yourself Black female footballers, or is it a case where you just think you're footballers? I'll start with you, Dan.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I'm aware of the colour of my skin, but no, I've never described myself as a Black female footballer. I'm just a footballer who's of Black heritage. So yeah, I've never seen any sort of problem with me being one of the few Black players playing football, because yeah, as we're aware that there's very few of us. I think on this call, this is quite the majority across both the WSL 1 and the championship level. So yeah, there's not many of us, but yeah, no, I'd never seen myself as just a Black female footballer.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. I basically looked at the list of all the players in WSL and Championship, and I've got you all here basically. What about you, Freda? I mean, does your race play a part in your identity as a footballer? Are you a Black female footballer?
No, I'm just a baller, just a footballer. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Just a footballer.
But clearly, there's this disconnect, because I'm assuming all of you, like, tell me if I'm wrong, but if all of you consider yourselves just footballers, there's people outside of what you think and what you perceive yourself to be, who see you first and foremost as black. Is that a problem, Renee? Is that an issue?
Yeah, I think it is, because obviously you want people to look at you and view you as you view yourself. So when I'm on the pitch, I would more describe myself or view myself as sort of the position I play, the type of character I am on the pitch. Am I mouthy? Am I mouthy on the pitch, or am I quiet? Am I quick, or am I strong, and things like that. And that's how I'd like to associate myself with the game, not really because of the colour of my skin. So and obviously you want people to view you the same on your footballing merit and nothing else really.
Yeah, understandable. I suppose that at times, Rinsola, there's times where you just can't get away from the fact that people will judge you on the color of your skin, right? As you've found very, very recently on social media, people will use what they perceive as a weakness against you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm aware as a black female footballer that I'm obviously going to experience different things in comparison to the next person and stuff, but I still see myself as a footballer just like everyone else. Like, no, I don't understand why colour really matters in sport. Like, I'm still a professional athlete and I'm still here to do my job no matter what colour I am. So.
Okay, so we've already joked about the fact that all the players of black heritage at the top of the women's game are basically here right now, barring one or two. So why is it that when you look at the men's game at the top level, it's like a third make up black and mixed race players, whereas at the women's game, it's tiny. It's nowhere near in comparison. Is there, well, there's clearly a difference, but why is there that difference? What is preventing black women from progressing? It's not just based on quality and how good you are as footballers alone. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it sort of it boils down to cultural issues, if I want to be honest with you. I don't know, I haven't spoken to the girls about if their parents have ever said, oh, football's not a real job, or you need something that's gonna help you through life and is gonna support you through life. I'm pretty sure if you was to ask quite a few black female players, if that conversation has ever come up, or if your parents have ever worried about whether it's substantial in terms of you making a living out of it. I'm sure that's probably come up in many occasions. And that's just our parents sort of looking out for us, wanting us to, you know, live and be able to live. So I'll definitely say, comparing it to the men's and the women's game, we all know the men's game, there's a lot of money in the men's game. So if anything, it's probably more supported, or it's encouraged. People's parents, boys' parents, should I say, will encourage their boys to become footballers because of the financial side of things. Whereas in the women's game, only up until recently, or even now, it still isn't maybe you get paid enough to sort of live easy and be comfortable. So I think that is probably quite a big factor in terms of culturally, it hasn't been seen as a profession where you can earn a living.
Yeah, I definitely had that conversation with my parents.
Yeah, no, I'm just going off what Danielle said there. I know for me, my parents, when I first started playing football when I was younger, my mum was like, well, football isn't for girls. And I think they were just worried about the barriers that I may face if I went into a career like this. So for me, my parents always made sure that, you know, education was forefront in my life and was the priority. And as long as I was doing well in that, and as long as I focused on that, then football was always secondary to them. And rightly so, they were just looking out for me. You know, they saw that education posed the least amount of barriers, because it's either yes or no. It's all dependent on you, and rather than discrimination and what other people how they may view you and see you. So I think that's the reason why, you know, it's not encouraged by I know my parents, and similar to yours. So especially in my family as well, for me, we were first generation immigrants from Nigeria. So I think to give us a better life, like they saw that, you know, education was the way, and, you know, they weren't too keen on me wasting my time, as they used to think it was, wasting my time playing football. So I think that's where the cultural kind of barrier comes from.
Imagine top level striker playing for Nigeria now. What are they saying now?
Yeah, I know. I know. I said it to them when they came out to watch me at the 2015 World Cup. I was like, oh, so am I still wasting my time? But no, they're so supportive now, because and that comes from the growth of the game. They see that, you know, there is opportunities and there's career paths for Black women. But even it's not as much still. I mean, it's the norm for me growing up to see only 1 or 2 players that look like me on my team, and that was just the norm. I don't know if that was the same for you, you girls growing up. But
yeah,
No, for me personally, it was different. I feel like everybody, I don't know, I feel like everybody in South London, all the girls, all the boys was playing, and it was never an issue. So me personally, growing up, I was kind of supported as well, as long as obviously I had education there, but I never really had any issues like going to play football or any of the kind. Like what you guys said, it was completely different, but it was cool for me.
that's interesting, Freda, because firstly, South London, big up South London, because they create some serious ballers. I'm assuming you grew up playing in a cage like everyone else in South London. That's why you got those mad skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. If you haven't checked out Freda's YouTube channel, my gosh.
So
Check
because
out
I'm
her
getting
touch.
shy now. I'm getting shy.
Look at honestly, it's the way Freda was like, she messaged me and said, oh, do you want to try and come and try some tricks? And I looked at what she was doing and I thought, no, I don't want to embarrass myself on TV. No, I don't want to do that publicly. Thank you though. But no, we'll link up soon, Freda, definitely. I'll come and give it a go. But so if you're supported, Freda, and everyone around you is doing it, everyone around you is also Black, and I'm assuming, you know, there were people that were able to play the game to your level and perhaps higher. Why have they not transitioned to the elite level like you have? Why have they not gone on to play for England or whichever country they're representing? And bearing in mind, you as well played at England throughout the youth group stage. Why don't you think you made the transition to senior?
I don't know. There's a lot of things that goes on behind closed doors and whatnot, and there's always politics that goes on. So I don't know. I can't really answer that, if I'm being honest. I mean, when I was younger, like for academy level, there was loads of Black girls, especially for Arsenal. Dan, I don't know if you remember or if you was there, but there was loads of them. So I don't know where it kind of messed up there, but yeah, I'm not too sure.
So there's other things at play here, Freda. Like we're talking politics. So conversations that you're not a part of are happening.
No, it's just like the usual. I feel like it's just because we're like quite different, I guess. Like our act, there's always something with attitude, but it's just like a cultural thing. So like, I don't know, one person might act another way completely to how a Black girl or a Black person might act. So it's just little things we need to learn about each other, I guess.
Has anyone had any experience of that where their behaviors have been questioned, their attitudes, anything like that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I just feel like we're misunderstood as Black athletes. So that's kind of poor from like their part in terms of them actually spending time to actually get to know us. So yeah, that's like literally the main thing I'd say. It's not literally, it's not us having attitude problems or anything, like it's them just not really understanding us and needing to actually spend time to actually get to know us.
I suppose this is the problem when teams aren't diverse, they don't have diverse staff members and people that have been exposed to different cultures. But Rinsola, you actually made that breakthrough from youth England level to senior. I mean, I'm not asking you to dish the dirt, but did you feel you had to change or adapt the way you acted once you got to camp? Or could you just be yourself totally?
When I was with the seniors, like everyone, they're very supportive no matter what color you are. No one really looks at the color of your skin. They just want the best for the team and the best talent there. So like personally, for the seniors, I haven't really had any problems there. I've been to like 2 training camps now, so I've enjoyed my time both times when I was there. So yeah.
Okay, that's really positive to hear. So why is it then? Can someone tell me why it's only Demi Stokes and Nikita Paris, who are the two players of Black heritage, the only two players of Black heritage that regularly play for England? Has anyone worked out what's going wrong?
I don't know how it is for you girls growing up, but I know transportation was a massive barrier for me when I was growing up. And I mean, I grew up in Birmingham, so it wasn't massive, but so my parents both worked long hours, and getting to training and matches was always like an issue and a struggle for me. As soon as I was old enough, I was like catching the bus for train and walking and such. But I know like other Black teammates in the academy, they struggled as well with transport. And that's one of the reasons why I know a couple of girls that dropped out. They got to like 15, 16 years old, stopped playing because it was just, to them, just wasn't worth the struggle and the hassle of, catching two buses and getting, walking. But for me, transportation was a massive barrier for me.
Mm.
Yeah, just echoing really what Innie said. Obviously, I coach in the heart of Tottenham for the foundation, and we put on. I've got so many. I try and put on so many girls' sessions as much as I can to just try and increase participation. And obviously, in that area, there is a lot of big diverse sort of cultural differences. There's a lot of, I think it's like 50% or something of Tottenham are Black, and then you've got a lot of Turkish people that live there and all sorts. And I find that with the girls massively, the transportation is an issue, but then they're also not allowed to walk when it starts to get dark and it's late at night. So it's one of those things where the parents won't bring them because, as Illy said earlier, it's almost that cultural thing where it's like, football's not really taken seriously for females as such. But then I look at my colleagues who are running kick sessions, and they have hundreds of boys turn up at the same time that you're trying to put on a girls session. And obviously a lot of those boys are Black as well, but you just don't see it for the girls. And it's a big problem, and it's one of those where it's difficult to try and fix, because you have to really go to sort of the source of the problem, and you obviously can't tell parents how to be with their children, so it's a difficult one. So we have to sort of do more as organisations and coaches and whatever to put on sessions that are just so much more accessible, either at schools or in venues and locations that are literally next door. Otherwise they don't get there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to be fair to the FA, they have, I think, realized and identified that the hubs, what are they called now, the academies that they run for young girls, tend to be in the suburbs, and only reachable by transport if a parent is going to take you. I think they've realized as well that they perhaps need to come back to more city locations to enable more diverse communities to take part. So I think it's something that they're working on, but it doesn't sound like this is going to be something that changes overnight, Dan. It could be like quite a few major tournaments away before we're seeing regularly players of Black heritage make the England women's team.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was growing up, when I was looking up to the England women's team, still there was only 3, 4, 5 max maybe Black players that I could look up to and be like, okay, she looks like me, that's what I aspire to be. Because visibility is key, representation is key. If I can see someone who looks like me, then I'm going to aspire to also do that job or play football, because I can see someone like me can make it. So yeah, I think it's been a factor for many years. And like you say, if we knew what the answer was, we wouldn't be having this call. I don't think it's black and white, and I don't think it's going to get solved in the next year or two. I think fundamentally, like Freda's even mentioned, in terms of her growing up, I too was supported. I was just saying, I think culturally it could be an example, but I too was supported, and Freda was supported with her peers as well as her parents. and she's saying she was in the cage with people that looked like her, both boys and girls. So then it's a case of, well, Freda's playing with 10, 20, 30 boys and young black boys and girls. Why are those girls in particular, why are they not playing higher up, and why are they not getting near to the England squads? Who knows what it is? It could be down to quality, it could be down to a million and one other things that we've mentioned on this call. Transport, you get to a certain age, you know, you get into relationships, you have different friendship groups. There's endless amounts of examples of why loads of black girls in particular fall out of love or just decide not to pursue football seriously. Because like Freda said, at Arsenal Academy, when I was in the first team and Freda that was coming through, like she said, there was loads. There was loads of young black girls, black mixed race girls who were part of the academy, but there seems to be a massive drop off for whatever reason.
I think a lot of it is it has to be that like misunderstanding, and I feel like black athletes in general are quite misunderstood, because you hear it. I know we've already touched it, but you hear it all the time about players that are so talented, and you hear, oh, if only her attitude was a little bit better, I reckon she could. Like, you hear it all the time, and like sometimes I listen to people and I think, and I'm like, you don't even know her. You've never even met her before, so how do you know she's got an attitude problem, or just because of the way, like, certain facial expressions she might be pulling or whatever? And I just think, you know, if coaching staff and people behind the scenes, there's not and people in boardrooms or whatever, they're not it's not a diverse culture, then how are black athletes supposed to get understood? And like you hear a lot. One thing that bothers me a little bit, and I hear it on commentating Premier League matches as well, it tends to be with black players. They're described, oh, they're so quick, so strong, powerful, or whatever. But you know, I've played with some amazing players. I've played with some really, really good players, and there's so much more than that. Like, they're intelligent, like they've got quality on the ball. You know, they're leaders or whatever. And I just feel like we're very, it's almost stereotyped into that. Oh yeah, they're wicked because they're quick and strong or whatever. But it's actually more than that. So I feel like sometimes black athletes aren't taken as seriously as if they're not almost intellectually as capable as some of the white players, and I find that across the board, to be honest, in football in general.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, and the stats and the studies back you up there, Renee. Just to say, everyone, before I go to the next question, the chat function is open if you want to ask questions, so please get your questions in for the panel. But yeah, Renee, what you're saying is so true. In fact, black players are 6 times more likely to be basically reduced down to their physical attributes, their pace and their power, than their white counterparts. So what you're saying is absolutely true, and a study has confirmed that. Adama Traore is a prime example. Yes, he's quick. Yes, he's powerful. That's not all he is. His work rate is incredible. His footballing intelligence is off the charts. I mean, he plays at the top level, in one of the top leagues at the world. He's more than just pace and power, but you know, continually commentators will talk about literally his physicality and nothing else, which, you know, is tiring. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's don't get me wrong, like obviously people are trying to be complimentary, and it's a good thing to be powerful and quick and strong. Like, it's amazing, but they're so much more than that, and I feel like that needs to be understood. You know, black players are smart. You know, they're good on the ball. They've got quality on the ball. Like, they can read the game well. You know, I like to think that one of my best attributes is to be able to read the game well as a centre back, and actually not really my pace. So, you know, centre backs aren't that quick anyway. But I like to think, actually, yeah, I know I'm strong and powerful, but actually I'd like to think I'm pretty clued on and able to read the game well and stuff. And I feel like, you know, people need to view black players and players from different cultures like they're able to do that stuff too. Yeah,
I'd say you're pretty clued up. I've watched a few of your games, Renee, so I'll back you on that.
Thanks.
Going back to something that Dan said about visibility and the fact that young girls might be watching the England women's team, you know, particularly with a lot of them involved in the Olympics this summer, home Euros next year, looking at the screen and saying, hey, there's no one in that team really that looks like me. Is it worth it? Is it possible? So Rinsola, how important is visibility? And because of the lack of visibility of Black players in the England women's team at the moment, are we like missing out on talent?
Yeah, I'll definitely say so, because like Black players, we obviously bring something different, as you can see, and that's why everyone actually fears us. So everything literally starts from like grassroots, just being supported, and as you said, visibility for those young Black players that look like me, to see like you can make it no matter what color you are. So I'll say it's actually very important to have a support system as well, just to keep you like motivated, just to like make sure you actually believe that you can be that representation for maybe people younger, to look up to you, to believe, yeah, that I can make it as well, because obviously you haven't stuff. So yeah, no, visibility is very important, I'll say, as well as having a support system.
Freda, what do you reckon now that people are talking about diversity in the women's game more than ever? More people are watching the women's game more than ever. Is it still possible for someone like yourself to break in to the senior team, given all that you've achieved, with Arsenal, with Birmingham, now at London City, FA Cup winner, of course? I mean, your accolades are incredible. Is it still possible?
I believe so. I mean, as long as you just have a good season and just give it all, then there's no chance you can't get recognized, sort of thing. Like if you have an amazing season and you're still not getting the props, then like why, sort of thing. But I think there's still time to obviously try and get into the squad and get into the team and push on.
Does it bother you that there aren't many Black players in the senior team? In terms of you being there, like, do you worry about putting yourself in that environment?
No, because the girls that are there, me personally, I know them, so, and they're all cool. It's just not enough Black players have been selected. And like what Rinsola said, we need role models for younger age groups to come up and see people like us and trying to kick ball and do whatever, so they can aspire to be footballers as well. So that's what it is.
Inni, did any of this, like what we're talking about race and the problems that the England women's team have, did any of that come into your thinking when you chose to play for Nigeria, or was it just an obvious choice for you anyway?
Obviously, it was a consideration, but no, it's pretty much an obvious choice for me. When Nigeria came knocking the door, it seemed like the right path for me. But I can definitely understand what Rinsola and Freda are saying there, just because for my parents, it gave them peace of mind being able to see people, role models, and more often than not, your role models are people that look like you. You know, if you can see it, you can be it. So I think it's more so for them than for me. It gave them peace of mind that there are people that look like me and look like us in those roles, which kind of allowed them to say to me, okay, it's okay to do this alongside. So for me, when I was a kid, I didn't really see that. It wasn't until when I got a little bit older that became more of a, okay, there's Black players in national teams, you know. That actually came into consideration for me, but because when I was younger, I didn't really consider any of that. I was just playing football. I didn't even really think that I was a Black player. I was the only Black player playing amongst my friends. It didn't cross my mind when I was younger, until I got a little bit older, and then, you know, it started to get pointed out to me, in the same way that, you know, Renée was discussing, you know, the Black player, she's fast, she's quick, she's strong, she's powerful, but like, no one else described as that. I was the only person that was described as that in my team. I was thinking, but she's quick too, and she's strong too. Like, she's probably stronger than me, you know, but it was only me that was described as that. So it only really became like an issue and a problem as I grew older. But initially, it was for my parents, seeing Black athletes at the top of their game definitely helped them. So it helped me. So.
And how did you take to that moment where you realised you were a black footballer, not just a footballer?
Yeah, I don't know. It was strange. I think because all this time I didn't see race when I was a kid. I mean, what child sees race really? You know. So and Birmingham isn't. It's not like Birmingham isn't diverse. Birmingham is very diverse, but I was always still the one or two players. I think at one time that max there was 3 black players in my team. That was under 16 at the time, but yeah, race didn't matter. But yeah, it was an eye opener, definitely, to realise, oh, there are these barriers and are these obstacles, and why aren't I getting treated the same, or why is that only applied to me? But I mean, I had a great network around me, like my sisters and my family and stuff. So it helped me massively to adjust to that. But yeah, no, it was definitely still an eye opener when the penny kind of dropped for me.
Yeah, I bet. So talking about, Dan, talking about commentators and the way they describe black players. I mean, now with this new broadcast deal, there's going to be more people watching you banging in goals for Reading than ever before. That's great, right? That's great for the women's game. It shows the development. It shows how far the women's game has come. But is there any part of you that's worried that, like Raheem Sterling, that you might receive a disproportionate amount of negative feedback?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried. I haven't got anxiety about that, but I'm aware of it. Unfortunately, it's almost as if we've accepted that that's going to happen. Which again, that's wrong. We shouldn't. But unfortunately, the way things are, and because there's no repercussions for anybody who do hurl abuse at players through a phone. It's a case of, okay, what we've got to do, just accept it and expect it every time we play football, and we might not have a good game. We're human. The men are human. The girls are human. I'm sure in your job, Jess, like for example, you might have misread something on a cue. It happens. Like
many times.
That's what it is. But it is as if, for whatever reason, people like to nitpick, and it's easy to throw abuse because you are black, and it's like, oh, let's insult you in this way, which has absolutely no bearing on the way you performed. So yeah, I'm not scared. I'm not anxious about it. Am I expecting it? Maybe. That might be why I'm able to sort of not take it on board and sort of just let it brush over. But again, why should we have to be so tough-skinned and expect it from people that literally couldn't tie our laces?
Yeah, that's a nice way of looking at it. But you know what? It's not even just social media yet. There's been a rise in abuse on social media, but as Raheem Sterling pointed out a couple of years ago, it's not just fans, it's pundits, it's newspapers, journalists, those in the media, that all abuse in one way or another, whether it be, obvious or subtle. There's a very negative perception of young black men that play football. And I wonder whether that might transfer to the women's game. What do you think, Rinsola? Especially the characters, the ones that want to laugh and joke, like Jessie Lingard, for example, they're targeted.
Yeah, I definitely think journalists play a big part in that, because like they can literally paint an ugly picture of you, and then everybody just jumps on that bandwagon, not knowing the facts. So yeah, it's actually very important for journalists themselves as well to maybe get to know us, to actually paint the right picture of us, instead of trying to like make us be seen as like a negative person, when literally that's not the aim that we're actually going for. So yeah, journalists literally, they need to be better and be kinder when they're actually making articles and in their interviews and stuff.
Can I just jump in there, Jess, actually?
Yeah.
And what Rinsola says is absolutely spot on. And I think it's not just football. I know we're in here to talk about football, but it's society as a whole. So like Rinsola just said, it's about journalists. How many black journalists are in your offices? How many black managers are in the leagues, both women and men? How many coaches? How many S&Cs? The list is endless. Even if you come out of football and you say, for example, if you used to say, oh, I've got a black lawyer or a black solicitor, straight away eyebrows go up like, oh, is it? as in it's not the norm, or it should be the norm, but when people hear of these different roles, it's, oh wow, oh okay. So if there's more people in the limelight and people can actually look up to these people, I'm sure there's many people in loads of different fields, black people, sorry, in loads of different fields, but we're not aware of them. If they were brought to our attention, then again, they're role models, and loads of young girls and boys can look up to these individuals and see, oh, actually, I can be a lawyer, I can be this, I can be that, which are often seen as not black roles or black jobs because you don't see many in those fields. So I think, I know we're talking about football, but obviously nothing's going to change until society changes. And there will always be racism or subconscious racism in society. I know we're trying to limit it in football and in sport, but first of all, we need to sort of get it at the source, which is in society, and then change people's perceptions and the way people think to then be able to change it in individual sectors, in my opinion.
Mic drop. Dan speaking the things, and clearly I can see why you've gone into governance, Dan. Do you know what I mean? Like you've taken on a new role recently, haven't you, at the PFA? And it's clear that you've seen a way for you to try and impact change there, right?
Yeah, well, I'd like to think so. I mean, I knew early on I didn't want to be a coach, but yeah, in terms of being a role model in any type of way, we've got black coaches, we've got black players. How many black people are in governance? How many black people are making decisions at the top for football or in politics, whatever it may be? So yeah, I knew in terms of me giving back to the game, that's the way I would like to do it.
Good for you. Good for you.
It's interesting what you said there, Danielle. So do you not think it comes from the individual sectors first before it can be like it can be spread throughout society? Do you think the responsibility comes foremost at each core in each sector?
Yeah, I think it's like the chicken and the egg, because it's a case of, yeah, you want the individual sectors, so coaching, for example, to employ more diverse people from diverse backgrounds, but in society, it's telling you that these people of diverse backgrounds have attitudes, have this, have that. And it's the case of you've got to change people's perceptions in society as a whole before you can start employing these individuals, or not before you can start employing them, before people will look at them the way they should be as individuals and not a black person.
Totally. I totally agree with you, Rinsola, as well about journalism, and that is my field. So whilst I slightly feel attacked, no, I'm joking. What you're saying is, joking. It's not about my feelings. You're absolutely right. And honestly, these are the conversations I'm having within my industry daily. I promise you, I'm trying my best to change things, but do you know what I mean? It's going to be a long, slow road, because as in football, as in many industries in Great Britain, they are white majority, which is fine in itself, because as a population of diverse people, we make up a minority. But the problem comes when the majority don't fairly look at the minority, and the minority are impeded against from progressing. So, yeah. I think there are a lot more discussions that need to happen, but I suppose what I'm pushing for is tangible change. So change where I can look at and be like, that's actually made a difference. Not just let's all have a webinar, let's all have a discussion, but what's actually changed. And that has happened within my organization through unions. So collectives coming together of like-minded people that want to drive change. Football seems to be the only industry that doesn't have that, or does it? Renée, is there anything in the WSL, the championship, like a collective of players of Black heritage that come together to try and bring about change, to try and drive things forward? Does that exist?
I don't think it exists from sort of a WSL/championship organisation, but it's funny you mentioned that, because I think it's literally just been announced yesterday or the day before, but Kick It and Kick It Out have now got like a players advisory board, which I'm on, along with I'm not sure if some of you may be on that also, but the likes of Rhian Brewster and Trent Alexander-Arnold and some black players across men and women's football. And I think the idea is to meet up 4 times a year to basically try and give our thoughts and ideas of changes that can be made and implemented. But to hear from the source, to hear from the players themselves. I think there are coaches on it as well. But that's the only sort of players kind of input board that I can think of, but nothing from just the women's football perspective.
Would it be worth having something like that, Freda?
I think so. I think it'll be so beneficial. I mean, the information that we would be able to give them regular could obviously help change a lot of things. So I definitely think it's a good thing to have, and they should go ahead and do like what Renee said. We've got it now, but she mentioned it's only 4 times a year. I think it should be more than that because so many things happen across the season. I think it should be a monthly thing, but who knows? We see what happens.
Okay.
I think it should be. I think there should be maybe just a specific women's football one because, yes, football as a whole, we like to look at as one, but realistically, men's and women's football is just worlds apart. It's completely different in terms of how things are run, the infrastructure behind clubs, and stuff like that, and resources and stuff. So I do feel like there needs to be almost a women's football specific one where people who understand how women's football works and how it's run can be a big part of that, because you know the women's championship is going to face completely different problems to what the Premier League is going to face. And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic to have it and to look at football in general, but I think there should be a little bit of a disparity as well.
Got you. Definitely. Well, there's an action maybe to try and take away between you lot. I don't have to get involved. Maybe try and start a black union for WSL and Championship. You know, there's probably resources out there. Women in football can help. PFA can help. FA can help. Probably good to keep it independent so that you own it as players first and foremost. But I'm sure there'll be supportive people out there that could make that happen. And you've got time before the new season starts as well in September.
I've never thought of that. We probably never thought of that as a group, but I don't know about you girls in your schools. Did you ever used to have like an ACS? So that it's just come to me just from this conversation.
Afro-Caribbean Society, yes.
So there's just stuff like that in the sense of
what, and they
like,
come in during assembly and talk about culture and stuff. That
must be a London thing because I'm not, I mean, I never had anything like that growing up.
No, I didn't.
What? I don't know.
Yeah, we had that in school.
Yeah. At uni, it was like a society of everyone of an African or Caribbean heritage. And I mean, a lot of the time it was about raving, don't get me wrong, but also there was cultural stuff that happened as well. At uni, no one had that? College?
I was the there were, in my year at school, there was like a small group of African girls who would stick together, and basically they wouldn't talk to anybody else and nobody would talk to them. And then there was me, the solely mixed race person, and then everybody else was white, because obviously I'm from North Hertfordshire. So there was barely any black people at my school at all. So they wouldn't have put something like that on. So I didn't experience anything like that.
Ladies, this is your chance, man. This is your chance. And I think, honestly, all jokes aside, it can be very empowering. And a collective voice is always stronger than a lone voice, particularly when things go wrong and you need help and support, or sometimes just a space to vent around people who understand what you're going through. Might be beneficial. We have questions coming in. We've had quite a few. Looking at the time, let's get to this one. This is relevant. This is very topical at the moment. Carla has said, in our league, we were the only team who chose to take the knee at all of our home matches. not least as we have more black players in our team than any other in the league. It just didn't occur to the other teams. So taking the knee, I mean, we've seen recently with England, they've had 2 warm-up games in the last week. Both times England fans booed their players taking the knee. Where do you all stand on it? Is it now an empty gesture, or is it something the game still needs? And does the women's game need it as well? Rins, what do you think?
I feel like it is an empty gesture now, because like we've been doing it for quite some time, and literally there's still like major problems happening. As you can see, like the players are now speaking out a bit more about it. But literally, if a team is taking a knee, then the other team kind of should as well, just to like make a point. Like that's kind of like part of the problem. It shouldn't be just black players wanting to obviously do that, and then or because you're not black, or for some reason you don't believe in that, you're not going to do it. So I just feel like everyone needs to actually buy into something and actually live it, not just one team or a couple players, because they're actually getting attacked personally.
Dan, what do you think? Oh, sorry, Innie.
I was going to say, I don't think it's an empty gesture. Just, if anything else, it's a constant reminder. You know, you go through like bouts of like racism accusations, and then it will forget about. It will be forgotten about in a few months' time, and then another case will happen, and then it's the same cycle. But this just keeps it constantly fresh and makes people aware that no, this is an ongoing thing. It's not just a case here and case there. Like, I think it is important to continue doing it as long as it will take, to make everyone aware. And it just goes to show it's needed. You know, the boos in the England game just goes to show that, you know, people are still not taking it seriously. So just for a constant reminder, you know, racism still exists, and especially in an industry like football, you know, it's the most popular sport in the UK and worldwide, you know, and if anywhere in society has a chance to, you know, break the mold and, you know, start something, it's football. It's a religion to most people, you know, so I do think that, you know, it needs to be continued as strong as possible, especially in a sport like football, because it's going to start the fire, it's going to spread. And that's why I believe, you know, it's important to constantly be taking the knee wherever possible.
Yeah, but saying that as well, I feel like there needs to be a follow-up as well to try and educate fans. Like, if you're going to go to the game and then you're booing it, what's the point of you actually being there? Because literally there's obviously a reason as to why we're doing it. There's clearly a big problem, and that's why they're actually booing it. That's literally the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
with the thing that you just, sorry to butt in, but with this thing with the education, that's where it kind of annoys me. We've kind of expressed what's been going on and why we've been taking a knee, and is when we're explaining what's going on, we've done that, and you're still kind of taking a mick by still booing. You're basically not showing support. You don't care about what's going on, and I feel like that's just on you, sort of thing. Not like, I feel like that's on the person booing and not understand, like not taking on board what's going on, and it's racism. I'm just gonna say, like, if you don't understand why we're doing it, then you are the problem. Like, we have to stop all this stuff about, oh, we've got to educate them and do this and do that. You know why we're doing it, and we're all tired from it. And that's why we need, if you're not racist, you wouldn't be booing, you support it, and you understand what every black player is going through, or every black player or person in general is going through. Hence why we're even doing the knee and taking a stance. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it.
And it brings it all to the limelight, you know, the fact that you continue to take the knee and people are booing, it's given exposure to the racism in football. You know, it's given talking points around the issue, which is great. You know, if we can talk about it, then we can learn from it. You know, so I think the fact that people are booing, as terrible as it is, it's great because it's drawing attention to the fact that, look, there is still racism in football, despite what some people are telling you otherwise. You know, I think it's good that, you know, it's brought it to the limelight, that, and to show how bad racism is in football.
And I think people have got lazy because they say pretty much every time they say, oh, people taking the knee, well, we shouldn't be supporting politics in football. And I don't know how many times that the players, the managers, whoever needs to explain it's not about supporting the political party, it's about X, Y, Z, but people are still choosing to have their own take on it, to fit their own narrative. And then you see tweets like, I think Nigel Farage done a video and a tweet on it the other day talking about how England players shouldn't be taking a knee because of X, Y, Z. And then obviously that just fuels the fire. But I think as long as there is a single boo in those stadiums, then it needs to be done week in, week out. Because every time fans boo, like what Innie just said, every time fans boo, it's on Twitter. There's news reports about it. Oh, fans boo again, and it's constantly in your face. And then it's forcing reporters and journalists or whatever to ask. So they asked Gareth Southgate, and Gareth Southgate came out and backed his players and said, you know, he loved that his players was doing it and he fully supports them, whatever they want. And it's forcing people, not forcing, but, you know, you wouldn't necessarily associate someone like Gareth Southgate to come out and talk about racism. But because this is happening, because with players are taking the knee and people are booing, actually, people who maybe don't particularly understand what it feels like to receive any sort of racism are coming out and speaking about it as well. And I think that's where the link needs to be. It shouldn't just be black people, mixed race people, players or whatever talking about, oh, this is why we're taking the knee, X, Y, Z, to try and help people understand. Actually, it's probably much more powerful for someone like Gareth Southgate and for white players or managers to come out and go, do you know what, I fully support this. And essentially, if you boo my players, you're not really welcome. So I think it's so important to continue it.
I have to say, I think Gareth Southgate in his handling of it has shown real allyship when previous England managers might have just shrugged their shoulders or just read out some FA-friendly statement. But I get the sense with Gareth Southgate, it's a bit more than that. He actually gets it and realises that his players are hurting from it. So yeah, I would have to agree. I just want to get to, I'm wary of time, coming to the last few minutes, but there's a lovely comment that's come in. And they say, firstly, thank you to all the panelists for sharing your experiences and leading the way. I'm much older than you all, and there were very few examples for me to aspire to in my footballing career. I manage and am secretary for a Tier 5 women's team now, and many of my black players have experienced similar bias and lost confidence when trying out for teams in higher tiers, aside from going to the US on scholarship. Those who have moved teams in the UK have often contacted me as they feel isolated and have experienced negative comments / behavior. We need more role models to advocate and protect them. So big up all of you, because I think just the fact that you're doing what you do is inspiring so many to believe that they can do the same thing. And in terms of, I mean, if a black union happens, which I hope it does after this, you can help players in lower tiers like that when they need some assistance, when they need some support. And another question, this one's come in and says, what do you think brands can do to support black female athletes? And I read that question because we were talking about the fact, what Dan was talking about, you know, that some players don't have black people around them in their support team. I know a few players now that have black agents, which before was like, whoa, that would never happen. But yeah, what do you think brands can do to support black female athletes? Innie?
I just think more coverage. Like I said, if you can see it, you can be it. And just being able to see someone that looks like you in certain roles, it will inspire them to, you know, to go into that, you know, continue playing. So like I said, just more coverage, I think is important.
Okay. Dan, you got a perspective on that? A brand? You work with a lot of brands, being that you're big time.
Trying to get their deal. No, I mean, I would agree with Vinny. It all boils down to seeing it to be it and to become it. But yeah, I think it's like when we had the black squares. I think it's all good and proper, or it's all well and good. Brands and companies putting up a black square, but like Rinsola said also about taking a knee, there needs to be action behind it. It's all well and good. Anybody could put a square up, but what have you done since? Have you employed more people of colour? Have you done more initiatives with sorry, as I said, people of colour, I don't actually like that phrase. Have you done more with black people? So yeah, it's all about the action. So it's all well and good people, you know, supporting from afar and making it look good on face value, but behind closed doors, how is it you're changing and how are you improving behind the scenes?
I know Nike are huge, but I think that they really are the benchmark for brands being diverse, because even you scroll through the website, there are people from all different backgrounds on the website, all different sizes. Their adverts are always wicked, super inspirational for women. They do women specific stuff. They do multicultural stuff. Like I think they're so good. And obviously I think everybody from all different backgrounds obviously buy Nike, don't they? So, and it just goes to show why. So I think if everybody could aspire to give that much coverage, then we'd be heading in the right direction.
I feel like Puma are actually good for it as well, because like when I received abuse, obviously the sexist and racist comment that I recently obviously experienced, Puma actually, they approached me and they obviously they literally shined light on it on their profile, as well as they actually contacted me personally to see what they can do like moving forward to help like black athletes, especially their black athletes. So yeah, I feel like it is like proper massive for brands to obviously target and expose the situation happening now, but as well as to help prevention or just to show support for like the future as well. So not only about the now and then, but about going forward as well.
That's massive. That's massive. And again, from perhaps a year ago, before the social uprisings, before the rise of Black Lives Matter and George Floyd, perhaps that wouldn't have happened. So maybe that's another tangible outcome of all these conversations that we've had over the last year to 18 months. So that's really positive. I'm wary of time. I am just about to let you go. George came in with a question about how important it is for there to be more Black women in the sports media to better portray Black female players. We did touch on that a bit earlier, George, and yeah, you're totally right. There needs to be more of us in the sports media. There are some of us that are really trying hard, some of us that are really trying hard to make it more diverse, not only make it more diverse, but make it more inclusive as well, make it more accessible from people from diverse communities. And it's not just race, gender, sexuality as well, all important, physical ability, neurodiversity, all important matters in making the sports media more diverse. The media industry in the UK is 94% white and majority male. Just 0.4% of the UK media industry is Muslim. There's a long way to go for us. And I think if we can become more diverse, it will definitely help how the players on this panel are perceived and reported on when they play football, definitely. Thank you so much to our panelists. It's been really good. I've got one final question to you. It might be the hardest question that I've asked you so far during this panel, but are England going to win the Euros?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 yes,
Yeah.
2 yes,
Yeah, I think so.
3, 4,
Yes.
5.
Yeah, they're gonna win.
Yes. Come on, England. Okay. Do you know what? I know we've touched on some really heavy subjects, but I really do appreciate your refreshing honesty and taking the time out of your days to talk about it and discuss it. Thank you very much. It's been enlightening. It's been really, really fascinating to hear your thoughts from so many top players and from so many brilliant individuals. So thank you, Renée, Ini, Dan, Rinsola, and Freda. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And I thank you, Jess, for
No problem.
giving of your time and for hosting such a fantastic session, which was completely eye-opening for me, inspirational, and how hard you women work is beyond anything I think the men will ever know, because that you are an inspiration to us also. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I like and the Black Trade Union Players Union is kind of something we should talk about, I think, Jess, don't you?
Definitely. I mean, if that could be one solid, tangible outcome from this discussion, I'd be so happy for you. I think it'd be so good for all of you. It'd be so empowering, honestly. As someone who's part of a collective within my industry, it really makes things so much easier for you when you need help.
We'll probably be in touch with all of you on that in due course. So just for our members, thank you for being here. If you would like to feed back to us, please do via Twitter or an email, events@womeninfootball.co.uk, and we'll be running more of these events over the next few weeks and months. Keep an eye on the website, check our social media channels, and we will be emailing you all soon. Thanks for joining us. Come on, England, and we'll see you next time.